Karen, we are live. Welcome to the Onward podcast, the live version.
Yay! Thanks, Emily. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to be here too. And you've listed a bunch of things that we're going to talk about, and I'm ready to dig in. Are you? I'm just, there's so many things you want to learn, and I think that a lot of us deal with self-love issues. I know I do. So I love the title. You're an Uncensored Self-Love Coach.
Yeah, I like that too. I just rebranded as that because people have told me, they've given me feedback that you are willing to say whatever it takes to get people to break through. You don't censor yourself. You don't try to be liked. And it's really important that I do that I stand for people in transformation and hold them high and don't buy into their BS stories. Because we all have them.
Do you have people pleasing tendencies or no?
Oh yeah, they're still there. So there's a process I do before I coach anybody.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Do you share it or not?
Absolutely. So what I do is I ground myself. I do a little breathing and I pray. I say, get me out of the way and speak through me. And back when I first started coaching, I would get these hits. I call them like hits from the universe. And I would know words to say. And I'd be like thinking, I can't say that. They're going to fire me. And so I would censor it. I would water it down and people would get watered down results. So finally, I'm like, okay, I'm going to try it. It took a lot of courage. So, I get these stuff. It doesn't sound nice at all to my ear. And when it comes out of my mouth, people are like, and they're like, and then you can see like physically, there's like an opening where it gets in like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I needed to hear. And nobody has had the courage to tell me that.
Well, that takes a special client to be able to say that too, though, because typically if you're in coaching, you want to hear, you're trying to make some improvements and you want to hear some things. But sometimes if what you're saying is true, sometimes it's hard to hear some stuff.
It is. And I'm not saying it always happens that way, but people do come back and they say, you are absolutely right, which I'm not attached to at all. I don't need to be right. Mm-hmm. But they will get a breakthrough around it if they're willing, right? And, I'm not attached at all. And I think intention is so important. Like I call it a loving interruption. Mm-hmm. And there are lots of different kinds of love, right?
Right.
And if always my intention is to love that person and to see them as who they really are, not the stories, not the identities they've like put on. Okay, I'm going to be a mom. I'm going to be a daughter. I'm going to be a success. All these things we put on ourselves are not us.
Right. Right. That's true. So what is your specialty in the area of coaching? What are the kinds of situations that you like to coach on?
Ooh, I love it. I love working with women that have been playing small. They've been hiding. They're afraid to talk about their gifts out loud. Mm-hmm. They have them. They have this inkling like I'm meant for more. I know I'm here for something else. And I get, through all kinds of different exercises and even mirroring back to them who they are, where I see them. It's a process of owning every single part of yourself. All the parts that we've said, no, that's not lovable. I can't be that. It's like bringing it all back because so many people don't feel whole or complete because shut the door on, for women, it might be being a bitch, for example.
Right.
Or it could be anything. For me, it was girly. Being girly, I thought that was weak. I thought showing emotions was weak. Vulnerability made me less than. And so I shut it off. I put on masks and I was a bully.
Yeah.
And, I didn't have any relationships that were real.
Well, how did you, so I see some people watching and sometimes that count up there isn't accurate, but if you're watching and want to submit a comment, join in the conversation. So how did you recognize that you were putting on those masks, and how did you end up taking them off?
Oh gosh. Yeah, this is I had been living a double life for a while. I was married, I had two small children, and my youngest was born with a bunch of medical stuff. And by the time she was 1, she had 20 different medical specialists. And
Wow.
I made up that I couldn't take it anymore, and that I was like literally suicidal, and I was seeking an escape. And I found that escape, and I started having sex with people that weren't my husband. And it
Mm.
quickly became an addiction. So I had this double life, like I was like the perfect mom and wife and daughter-in-law. And then I would like go have sex with strangers.
Mhm.
And it all came crashing down when I got an STD, so I had to come clean to my ex-husband.
Mhm.
But then through a series of events, my in-laws found out. And that was devastating at the time. I was so embarrassed and so devastated because they were a minister and a minister's wife.
Mm.
So, like, talk about the worst possible thing I could be doing, right? It's
Yeah.
so different than drugs and alcohol. Most
Yeah.
people don't understand that, but sex is like, oh gosh, that's
Right.
disgusting.
Right.
So it really gave me the opportunity to be honest for the first time in my life. Like, what did I have to lose at that point? Like, everybody knew. So I became friends with honesty, like telling the truth for once. And I found freedom. Freedom.
How old's your daughter?
She's now 13, and my
Mhm.
other one is almost 15.
Okay. But is she doing all right health-wise?
Yeah, she's doing fine health-wise. Yeah.
So, why do you think you started to do that? Why do you think you started to go have sex with different people? Do you know why? Now that you look back on it?
Well, there's lots of reasons, like it goes back to childhood. Being a girl, I was the youngest of 3 children, and as a girl, I didn't feel like I was valued as much as my brothers. I didn't embrace anything feminine about myself. However, I learned from my dad, like, he didn't sexually abuse me, he sexualized me, meaning he made me into a sexual object,
Mhm.
giving me messages that women are only good for one thing.
Mhm.
And I believed it. And I didn't get the kind of love and acceptance and physical touch that I was craving from my family. And so I sought it out elsewhere.
Yeah.
So, like high school, college, I was a love addict too. I was always in a relationship, always. And I felt if I wasn't, it was terrifying. I felt like nobody could see me, like I didn't matter, like why bother existing? It was deep.
Yeah, really. James says, nice dialogue. This is all new to me. I know Emily through Navair. Hi, James. I'm interested in this nice exchange. Jamie. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Jamie.
There's so many things that we do that we don't really understand the reason for. And it takes like a coach or a counselor or something like that to help us figure it out. How did you end up figuring it out? Did you work with a coach or a counselor, or did you figure it all out on your own? Or was it the time when the in-laws came to you? Or
No, even, when I was found out, I still didn't want to stop. I mean, I was truly an addict. I didn't want to stop, and I couldn't stop
Mhm.
because I somehow in my brain, I had equated it with survival. Like, if
Yeah,
I don't do this, I will die.
yeah,
So it took a long time. It took a lot of crap for me to go through where I got to the point where I absolutely hated myself and I could not look in the mirror. Like, I remember one night, like, coming home from acting out with some guy who I couldn't stand. Like, as a person, he was not my cup of tea, but I
mhm,
was addicted to him.
mhm.
And I like just walked by myself in the bathroom mirror and I caught a glimpse of myself and I'm like, and I just started like yelling at myself, like, I hate you. I can't stand you. Like, what have you done to yourself? What are you doing with your life? You were not meant for this. Like, you gotta stop. And I just like dropped to my knees and I just prayed. I'm like I didn't feel lovable. I didn't feel acceptable to a higher power.
Mm-hmm.
I was embarrassed to talk to God, universe, spirit. I was embarrassed about what I was doing. And, that was the beginning. And the next day I went to a 12-step meeting, which I've been going to, Sex Addicts Anonymous, for a while, even though I was acting out. And I met with my sponsor and I said, I'm so deep into this addiction. I don't see any hope. I don't know how I can get out. And he just lovingly said to me, well, what do you think it's costing you? And being in denial as I was, I said, well, I don't think it's costing me anything. I just don't think I can quit. And he didn't laugh. But he said, would you be willing to make a list of what it's costing you? And I said, yeah, but it's going to be a short list. So I actually did it. I went home and I made a list. And at item number 39, I wrote, it's
That's not a short list.
Right? It's costing everything. As long as I'm doing this, I don't feel like I deserve anything good. So I was sabotaging everywhere. So that was the beginning. And then I hired a coach. And he said something so simple, it's hilarious. He said, if you want anything different in your life, you have to stop the addictive behavior. And I'm like, oh, why didn't I think of that?
Well, sometimes it takes somebody else to tell us. I mean, we probably know deep down, but it's just, yeah. I never really got a coach. Well, in sports I did.
Yeah.
Then in my work career, I never had any coaches until I made senior executive. And then the Navy assigned me a coach, and it was so helpful. I think, everyone needs a coach. You shouldn't have to be an executive in a company to get a coach, or in the Navy. I think we all need them to increase our self-awareness. Just imagine if more people were self-aware and knew what their saboteurs, or understood their inner critic, understood how they were maybe sabotaging themselves. Just think about how a work environment, and even our home environments, all of our relationships would work so much better. And some of it is just stuff that somebody else needs to help us see. It's hard to see on your own.
Yeah, we cannot see our blind spots, and we all have them.
Yeah.
And it's so important to have people that will tell you the truth in your life.
Right.
And most of our friends will not.
No. Yeah. So I've invested in a lot of coaches since 2019 when I retired, and they've helped me out a lot. And a lot of the stuff that I've learned about myself, if I had known it back when I was working, I think I would have been a better leader. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
But in my view, there are no mistakes. Like all the lessons that you learned by, not being as good of a leader as you could, you get to use them now.
Yeah.
And you can understand people that are in your shoes where you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Definitely. So when they say everything happens for a reason, but I think that we are always right where we're supposed to be. And everything that we learn enables us to be who we are today. So yeah, definitely agree.
I cannot agree more. And it's part of it is being responsible for what you've created. And for some people that's difficult, especially like where I was almost 6 years ago. I did not want to be responsible for that mess. But the moment I realized that I was the moment that I had a choice to choose again, to make a different choice.
Yeah. Michael says, a good mentor approximates a coach. Yep. Mentors are good too, for sure. When I was in the Navy, we had, mentoring was big when I was in the Navy. And then when I was a civilian working for the Navy, they were really big on mentoring, which is good. I think that sometimes a mentor isn't trained in some of the areas that a coach is trained in. Like, for example, Laura, you are, let's see, what did you say here? You're a licensed brain gym consultant. What is that? Yeah, because you said you really like studying the brain. And I mean, I think coaches learn things that, well, at least for me, I didn't learn when I was working for the Navy. It wasn't really like the inner work. It was more like the mentoring that I got was more like how to go get the next job, or how to handle a specific situation at work. I had a Myers-Briggs, but that's not all of who I am. I'm not just an ISTJ. I'm so much more than that. And the coaches have helped me become such a better person than I was even when I retired in 2019, that mentoring didn't help me with. So, but what is this brain gymnastics? Is that what I get
Brain
right?
gym.
Brain gym coach.
Yes. It's so fascinating. I discovered it when I was in my master's program, and what I got acquainted with it for was to learn how to read quickly and retain what I was reading, because I realized all through college, and I graduated with honors from University of Michigan, I never opened a textbook, ever. And now how I did that, I
agree in
coping strategies. So I found the smartest people in the room, in the classroom every time, and I would find them on the group study floor and say, can I study with you? Because I was an auditory learner.
Right.
And they would quiz each other, and I'd go, and I would just get it all, and I would get better test scores than they did.
Yeah. I used to not like people like you.
But I had to do
when I was in college, because I worked so hard. And that's awesome, though. That's awesome.
Yeah, but I never learned to read. I mean, I could read, but not difficult things. And my mind was everywhere. So I was in my master's program, and I had this professor that would have us read in class and present in the same class. So he wasn't teaching. And there were these girls in the back talking, and I'm like, oh gosh, I'm auditory. All I could hear was that. Nothing else was going on. And I was devastated. I'm like, I'm not smart. I'm so stupid. I can't read. So I went for this 90-minute brain gym balance. And at the end of it, I could read like that, and everything went in. I'm like, what the heck? So I got certified in it. And it's basically these movements that help you to make new connections in the brain that are permanent. And they're very simple. Wow. And it takes into account all the meridians or energy flow of the body. And it's a lot of things all in one. But basically, you balance for a goal, and your brain is changed in one session. You have brand new connections that were never there that will support you with a new behavior.
You balance for a goal? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, so a goal for me was I read quickly and retain everything I read. That was my goal. So it's like an affirmation. So it's stated in, present and positive.
Right.
And then we use muscle checking a lot, or noticing, like what do you want? Like here's a menu of options. Which one looks the best to you? Or we muscle check it. Do you know what muscle checking is?
No.
All right. So it's super cool. Your body is a lie detector, a human lie detector. So if you want to muscle check yourself, what I use is this right here. So you try to keep these two fingers together, and you go like that. And if it goes through, the muscle fibers have disengaged, which means that is not true for you. So if I say my name is Karen and I go like that, it holds. If I say my name is Emily, it goes right through, because it's a lie. So try it. Try to hold it together, like kind of gently but firmly. And my name is Emily.
My name is Emily. Okay.
Hold it together. It should hold.
Yeah, it would. Well, my name is Emily. It should hold.
Yeah, because it's true.
My name is Emily. Well, it does. I mean, but I'm telling it to hold, so I don't know.
Oh, all right. So my name is Fred.
My name is Fred.
Yeah, you can't overthink it. What food you like?
Huh?
What's a food you like?
Artichokes.
All right. So say I like artichokes.
I like artichokes. Yeah.
Did it hold?
No.
All right. You might be dehydrated. That's when it doesn't
drink my tea. But that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it works. And I test food that way. If I have food that's been in the refrigerator for a week and it's questionable, I check it. Like, this food is okay, and I check it.
Check it like that. Well, I could be dehydrated because I had a massage today and I didn't drink a whole bunch of water afterwards. So I probably am dehydrated.
Yeah, it doesn't work if you're dehydrated, because our brains and bodies are electrical systems.
Yes. Mine is dehydrated today.
Yeah, water conducts electricity. It makes things
What did it take for you to do you really love yourself? Like really, really love yourself?
It's really fascinating. I would say like 95% of the time I absolutely do. And there are those moments where I'm like, oh, you know, I should have done that. Like I could have done better, you know, where I beat myself up, but it's never self-hatred anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it took, you know, a lot of work on learning to get out of denial, dealing with my own judgments, noticing when I'm judging others. Can I give you guys a exercise?
Yeah.
This is what I do with a lot of my clients. It's really helpful. So I have them keep a judgment journal for about a week. So on one page, they write judgments about myself at the top, and then, you know, skip many pages depending on how much you judge yourself.
Oh, I would have one line. No, just kidding. I'd have a lot.
Yeah. My judgment of you is you're lying.
Right.
Right. And then at the top of another page, my judgments about others.
Mm-hmm.
That after a week or so, they come back, and the judgments about others could be, you know, she's pretty, she's smart, he's so confident, or it could be, you know, he's inconsiderate, you know, it could be either way.
Okay.
The judgments about yourself are your conscious judgments about yourself. The judgments about others are your subconscious beliefs about yourself. It's projection. Like all the stuff we don't want, we project it out onto everybody else.
So the judgments about others are subconscious beliefs about what we really think about ourselves.
Yep. And a lot of times we're like, well, almost all the time, we think those things are not acceptable. They make people unlovable, unworthy, not, you know, you don't want to be around them. But all those people that you're judging are gifts. They are presents for you to look at yourself and say, where is that me? And if it's not, I mean, even if it's something like that person's a murderer, okay, so clearly you're not a murderer.
Well, I was talking about this with one of my coaches today. She's an awareness coach.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What I have people do is go under it. Like, well, what are the characteristics of a murderer? You know, like,
I wasn't talking about murderers, but go ahead. Yeah.
People will say, well, I'm not a murderer, or I'm not a rapist. Or, you know, people will be extreme. Well, what are the characteristics of those people? And when have you been that? When have you been hateful? When have you been selfish? Like we all have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we all have.
That's okay. It's lovable. We all have every single characteristic within us. We just don't believe it. We don't accept it most of the time.
I think a lot of times we're just, you know, well, people are so self-conscious, many of us, and we just don't realize that everyone else is walking around that way too, being self-conscious. But what I was talking to her about today is that I don't brag. And she said, well, what's the matter with bragging? And I said, well, I know some people who do brag. And so I told her that I've got these things on my wall that I won't show when I'm on my Zoom calls. So but there are these awards, and I've got 4 of them. And they're high awards and everything, but I don't show them.
What are they for?
Oh, meritorious superior civilian and meritorious civilian, superior civilian, you know, all awards that I got when I worked for the Navy. And I don't show them. I don't like have my love me wall behind me. And I don't even really like having these in my office. It's just that they were in my mom's basement and she didn't want to keep them anymore. So I'm like, okay, I'll hang them up, but it makes me feel uncomfortable. And I noticed the other day that I don't even have on my website that I went to the Naval Academy. And that's something that I really need to show. If people want to hire me as a coach or invest in me as a coach, they need to understand that I was a senior executive and I went to the Naval Academy and, you know, but I don't brag. And I know that it comes from when I played basketball. I was a really good basketball player, but my dad, in high school, I was a leading scorer in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. But my dad would say, good game. Now, you remember that one time when you went right, you should have gone left. And so I can look at those awards and say, yeah, I got that award, but I remember something I did when I had that job, and I don't really think I did a good job. So anyway, that's something I'm working through.
What a gift for the audience that you're bringing this up and are willing to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because I think 95% of people are like that. We are always looking like, yep, I did that. Now what's next? What's next?
Yeah.
Because we have been conditioned to be human doings, not human beings.
Yep. And that's something that I'm really working on as retired. I'm like, I am working on my awareness, and I'm like, I'm tired of do. Because one of my guests said, you do, you turn into do. And I want to just be and not be like checking stuff off the list all the time.
Yep. And it's really common among people who've had tough parents.
Yeah, I don't like selling sales. I'm reluctant to self-promote. And so if I want to be a coach, I'm going to have to do more of that. But
you get to own your worth. You get to own your accomplishments. And when you can own them, you give other people permission to do the same thing.
That's what I'm working on with myself.
And, it's not a matter of saying, oh, by the way, I did this, this, and this, and I'm better than you, because that's not where it's coming from.
No.
It's from a place of, hey, here's where I was, and here's what I thought about myself, and I did this anyway. I accomplished this anyway, and you can too.
Yeah.
Like a yes, you can story, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So how do you turn those accomplishments into like lessons that other people can learn from?
Mm-hmm. And that's what you're doing with your coaching.
Yeah.
Because you're being open about the addiction that you had, and which for many people would be like, I would never admit that. I mean, they could admit alcohol or drug addiction. Possibly. That's even hard. There's a stigma around it. But I'm just assuming, I'm thinking that there's even a worse stigma around sex addiction.
Absolutely. Like some people don't even think it's real.
Yeah, we don't even talk about that. Yeah.
Some people don't think it's real, number one. And it absolutely is, because we all have a pharmacy right here. Right between our ears, we have our own pharmacies. And I believe we're all addicted to something. We create emotions. We're addicted, most of us, to being victims. Mm-hmm. And there are chemicals that your brain will manufacture to produce that state. And once those chemicals are produced, they trigger thoughts and beliefs like, oh, and then that triggers emotions, which triggers more chemicals, and it's a cycle. So just think about that, like how many times a day you complain. Not you, but in general, people. How many times we complain, or how many times we judge. A lot of people are addicted to being judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
It's all addictive.
Yeah. Yeah, my addiction is just achieving, achieve, not really appreciate what I achieved, but just keep going. And it'll never stop unless I do something about it, which is what I'm working on now. But it's not a matter of that, because it's been like over 30 years, almost 40 years of that. So, but I'm aware of it, and I want to do something about it. So I'm really working hard not hard.
Did you catch your language? You're working.
Yeah, I'm working. I know. Yeah, I've got to work so I can check it off my list.
You're doing to overcome doing.
Yeah, but actually I'm not now, because I've got goals of how much I want to exercise and how much I want to meditate. And so the more I do that and put myself first, the less I can go work and check things off my list. So you got to figure out how to make it work for yourself.
It's all about stepping into a way of being, like to be who you came here to be.
Yep.
Like a powerful stand for women and for embracing ourselves. Who do you get to be?
Mm-hmm. And it's so much better to be who you really are, and to take all those masks off. A lot of times when we're asked, like, if I ask you a question, who are you? What's your answer to that question?
I am a precious child of God. I am perfectly imperfect. I am love and light.
Now, you didn't say I am an uncensored self-love coach.
That can always change. But who I am at my core is lovable. It's love. It's loving.
That's my point. Is like so many people, I am a mom. I am, a daughter. I am a Navy officer. I am this. I am that.
Whatever we put after those words is so powerful. That is our declaration to the universe. Like, this is who I am. So when people say, I am, I don't even want to say it, S-I-C-K.
Yeah.
No, I am feeling that at the moment.
Right.
I'm really careful about language.
Yes, because you said that you follow Joe Dispenza, and he would say that our body really takes on our subconscious mind, and our subconscious mind doesn't understand the difference between I am not or I am. It just hears am and S-I-C-K.
Right.
And go figure out how to make you S-I-C-K. Or if you say, why can't I lose weight? I keep trying. I can't lose weight. Your subconscious brain and your body are going to find all the reasons why you can't lose weight.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. The subconscious mind does not hear the negative words like no and not. It just hears I am. Or like people will say, I'll ask people what they want. I'm like, well, I don't want this, or I want to get rid of it. Like, what do you want? You're giving your order to the universe. You're placing your order. Don't say what you don't want. I mean, you can start there if you don't know. You need contrast, but get down to what you want and focus on that, right?
Yeah. And if I say, like, I am a hyperachiever, I don't say that anymore. I say, if I catch myself saying I am a hyperachiever, I say, I used to be, or, I get rid of that. I try to change that. So I don't say I am that, because that's not how I want to be anymore.
Here's a really good phrase for everyone. Up until now.
Up until now. That's the word. Yeah. That's something that one of my coaches said. Yeah. Up until now. But not now.
I also say, like, I made up, this is what I made up about that, because it's absolutely what I made up in here. It's not reality. If you ask, 100 other people, they'll have a different interpretation of the events.
Yes.
Our perspective is very subjective. Yeah. Nobody else has it. And it's usually wrong. It's based on our filter. We are never reacting to what's right in front of us. We are always, always, always reacting to our past.
Yeah. Based on everything. Our brain is like, okay, this happened in the past and that happened, so therefore this is bad and stay away, when really it may not be. That's why it's scary to leave our comfort zone sometimes, right? Because our brain, stop.
Let's talk about the comfort zones. Lights me up. You can probably tell. But I used to hide. That was my big thing. Like, if I was in a room, nobody knew I was there for a long time. Once I got over my loud obnoxiousness, that was high school and college. After that, I was like dim. Like, you would never know I was there. I was afraid to use my voice. I was afraid to take risks. I was afraid of standing out. Like, you stand out, you're going to get hammered down, right?
What do you mean, like a room? Like if you're networking or in a conference room at work or?
Yeah, anywhere. And I was afraid to look stupid. That was my big thing. Ugh. That makes me laugh now. Now I'll ask questions. I don't care. I don't care.
Well, what did it take for that?
So it took getting out of my comfort zone.
You have to actually leave it, and you have to see, and your brain has to realize she didn't die. It's okay.
And it's scary as heck. So I needed, what it took for me was having support at first. But there's this guy named Jia Zhang, and he has a TED Talk on the 100 Days of Rejection Challenge.
Ooh.
And he has an app called Dare Me. And back before COVID, I downloaded it, and I would do these dares every single day. And they were so much fun. Like, one is so ridiculous. This is my favorite. Ask a stranger to race. Now, how hilarious is that?
Yeah, yeah.
Some middle-aged woman comes up to you, excuse me, do you want to race? And she's in heels. And you're like, what?
What
Am I,
she do?
am
Yeah.
I a candid camera? But it's hilarious. So many people have taken me up on that.
Well, I mean, I was on a Zoom call with one of these coaches who was helping us get over. The talk was on fear, and he said, "You just got to do the things that make you scared." And so, what he wanted us to all do was, because I think a lot of people, I don't have a problem with it. I'm live now, but some people have problems going live on Facebook or even if they're alone or whatever. So I'm like, well, this is fine. I can do that. I can go out live. He goes, I want you to go live and sing on your personal Facebook page. I'm like, oh my God. I said, before I sing on my personal Facebook page, because my kids, my mom, everyone's like, don't sing, Emily, you have a terrible voice. I said, could I tell them, say, I'm doing this, but it's because it's a challenge? He's like, no. So I went online and I sung Row, Row, Row Your Boat. My daughter called, are you okay? But, guess what? I was still alive after I did it. I didn't die. I was fine, and no one cares as much as you think they do.
No. And you probably made some people really smile or laugh.
Yeah, like what's Emily doing singing Row, Row, Row Your Boat?
Well, here's the thing. Like over the years, I've practiced expanding my comfort zone. I'm like, hardly anything scares me. But when I find it, I lean in because I don't want to sit in that fear. So what happened to me recently?
I was going to ask a recent time when you.
Yeah. So I used to call myself a spirituality and mindset coach. And my coach said to me, I was talking about a client of mine holding back. She's like, well, where are you holding yourself back? I'm like, oh, crap.
Don't ask me that.
I knew because I would not talk about my spirituality online, like live. I wouldn't do it. I was so ashamed and I was so not ashamed, but afraid of rejection.
Yeah.
I was shamed as a child about my beliefs, and my parents laughed at me and they made fun of me. And I don't have what I consider to be traditional American spiritual beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do it live. And here's how I started it. You guys, I'm scared shitless to tell you this. And then I'm like, and here's why, and I called it my coming out because it was frightening for me. But you know what? I was so honest and so authentic, and I had more engagement on that live than any other one. People were DMing me like, you're so brave, and thank you for saying that, because I feel exactly the same way. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many people feeling the same way as we are in different areas, that we just think that we're alone, and we're really not. And that's one of the reasons I started the Onward movement, which is, you're in that community. It's a Facebook group on my page, but it's, one of the things is we are not alone, and we share that and are there for each other, because so many people feel alone, and so many people are posting. It's changed a little bit with COVID, but people were, like it would, before COVID, no one would be so embarrassed to show up without makeup on a Zoom call or something like that. So things have changed, but people, we like to put our best foot forward. But how is your relationship with your parents?
Well, they both passed away.
Okay.
Now, before that happened, my dad unfortunately had dementia for maybe 6 or 7 years before he passed away. And I had done a lot of forgiveness work for him. But what really, really helped me a lot was writing his eulogy. Because I went online and it said, don't say anything negative. I'm like, oh, shit, what am I going to say? But then it really forced me to look like at all the good things he did and to see him so differently. It was very healing. So even if you're not going to speak the eulogy, I definitely recommend doing that before they die.
Yeah.
Before they die.
And write your own.
Yes, that's an exercise that we do in coaching school, right?
Yeah, write your own. And what do you want it to say, and what would it say now, and what do you think people would have it say? And that really hits home for me, because like a few months after I retired, my kids father passed away, and of cancer. He got sick he was diagnosed 3 weeks after I retired. 2 weeks after that, he was paralyzed in both arms. It was miserable. And then he died, and I know that he died with regrets, and that made me decide I don't want to die that way. But one way of forgiving our parents too is just recognizing that they're human too. And your dad, I'm sure, did the best he could as being a dad. And that's what I would tell my kids all the time, because their dad was verbally abusive to me and many times to them. And I would just say, he loves you in the way that he can love you. And I think every parent does the best that they can. I mean, we all have trauma from our childhood, but some of it is obvious because of how we were treated. Some of it's not so obvious. Like, I know that some of the ways my dad treated me when I played basketball have impacted me, but he didn't intend for it to impact me in the way it did impact me.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's interesting. And I was really lucky with my mom. Like, she got ovarian cancer, and I had 2 years with her. And I had a lot of alone time with her. We don't live in the same state, but I would fly in and spend time alone with her. And I got to say everything.
oh, that's nice.
And I got to hear those words that everybody wants to hear. Like, I'm proud of you. And I didn't think I would ever hear that from her. So that was amazing. And, what a gift. A lot of people don't have that. And I was open. I mean, I was really open, and just told her everything I wanted to say and how much gratitude I had for her. So I didn't, when she died, it was really still difficult and sad, and I was mad, but I didn't have regrets.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, when I retired, one of the things I said is I'm retiring at age 56 so that I can have more time with my parents, right? Because they ran a bed and breakfast or a small hotel. It had 26 rooms. Every time I'd go, they started that when I was in college. So every time I'd go visit them, I'd have to check into a room, and they just were always busy. And I wanted to have quality time with them. Well, then 3 weeks later, after I retired and moved down here about a mile or two away, my ex-husband got sick. So I was just busy back and forth, back and forth. I was the executor of the estate, helping take care of him. And then he died in December of 19. And then March is when COVID hit. So then I couldn't really go see my parents. And now I can. And that's another reason why I want to stop doing, because I refuse to have them, they're 85 and 77. I refuse to have them pass away. And I lived so close by, but I was too busy doing stuff that I couldn't go spend time with them. And don't get me wrong, sometimes they, get on my nerves. I'm sure I get on their nerves, but I just want to spend that time with them. So now they have had their shots, and so they let me come over.
And you get to get their stories. I mean, you could, if you're brave, right? It takes courage. You get to ask them, what was your relationship like with your dad or your mom?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about yourself growing up?
Yep. We can have those conversations. I can go for walks with my mom, and I'm very thankful for that. Well, when I walk with my mom, I can hardly keep up, but
really?
Yeah. My mom is 77. I walked like 7 miles with her the other day. I was like, I need a break. Mike says I so deserve a break. I do. I need a break. But I have to give myself permission to take that break.
You get to give yourself permission.
I know.
And until you get it, you get to schedule it in.
I'm going on vacation next week. I'm going to Myrtle Beach. So
nice.
Just hang out at the beach. So yeah. And so I am starting to do that more, of giving myself a break, because I know I need it. So like today I had a massage, and I've been working out a couple times a day. So anyway, this isn't about me. It's about Karen. So
no, it's all right. One thing that's really helpful is making a list of, I call it like where I experience the love of God, or where I experience flow, and scheduling one of those things in every single day. It's a non-negotiable.
Well, and I do that. The coaching that I do, I love it. And the podcast interviews like this, I love it. Because that's another reason why I wanted to retire is I wanted to have meaningful conversations with people. And with COVID now, that's been a little hard. But these conversations, I love doing my podcast because the whole time Bruce was sick, I have not missed publishing my episodes every Monday for almost 2 years now. I've not missed an episode. And sometimes I publish more than one on a Monday. But that tells me I really love doing it. I don't dread it. I look forward to it.
It's also commitment. Like you made a commitment and you honor your word.
Yeah, no, I do. I honor my word to myself. And
that's a simple way to increase your confidence is to honor your word. Like always do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, because if you let yourself down, you're going to let other people down. So
well, it also signals the subconscious mind that you're full of crap if you don't live up to your word. And next time you make a commitment, your subconscious mind's like, oh yeah, sure, you're going to do that. Remember what happened last time? Like it's always got something on you.
Yeah. So in addition to working out, I want to write a book and I want to have it published next February. So I have to write a page a day. So I'm starting to do that. And I know that it'll get to be more than a page a day once I just get going, but it's a matter of just getting going. So
that's really smart to make those, small goals, because if you say, I'm going to write 10 pages a day, some days you would say, oh, I don't have time to write 10 pages.
Right.
Whereas if you say, I'm going to write 1 page, once you're there and you're flowing, you're not going to want to stop. Right.
Right. That's what,
cleaning.
Cleaning. I need to start. Let me just clean. Let me just dust this picture here. I don't think I'll dust another one. Yeah, that's hard. Yeah, thank you. I will have fun in Myrtle Beach. I'm looking forward to it.
Aww.
So you say some main points that you wanted to talk about as we get ready to wrap this up is no matter what you have done in the past, you were always lovable and worthy. So I know that there's people that have done things that they're ashamed of in the past. And they feel like I'm not that person now, but I did it. So it's me. How do you forgive yourself for things that you do in the past? How does one go about doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question. One way is to own it, own that you did it. If it was involving another person, have a clearing conversation where you are 100% responsible for your actions for the state of the relationship. And what I like to do, I find apologies kind of annoying and not meaningful. So if someone says, I'm sorry I did this, it doesn't land for me because I've heard words or I apologize. I've heard those words so many times. And usually somebody wants something. They want forgiveness. They want you to let them off the hook. They want something. So what I like to say is it was wrong of me to do this, 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 and this. And if you want to, you can add a little bit. I was afraid. Like, what were you feeling? I was afraid of this. This is what I discovered that motivated me to do it. But don't make excuses, right?
Yeah.
And then you deserve better. You deserved better. From now on, you can count on me for this, this, and this, like ways of being. You can count on me to be honest. You can count on me to be loving. You can count on me, whatever.
That's a really meaningful apology.
Yeah.
Did you give that one to yourself too?
Yes. Yeah.
So,
and let yourself off the hook because we've all made mistakes and we get to own them. We get to clear. And when you clear, it's called the clearing because when you do it, it's nothing to do with the other person. You're clearing from yourself and you're making space for something beautiful to grow.
Right. Hard to envision how you will balance doing with breaking, doing with taking a break. I'm not sure what you mean, but yeah. Okay. And then you said you have the power to change absolutely anything.
Yeah. So intention is so important. Like, what's your intention for your life? Like, if you could pick 3 words, what's your intention? For some people, it's impact. For some people, it's relationship. For some people, it's love. Other people might think it's success, but I would say go dig deeper. What does success mean to you? And what's underneath it? What do you really want? Like, if you're successful, what does that mean about you? Like, some people want to matter.
Mm-hmm.
So dig deep and focus on your intention and what ways of being you get to be in order to demonstrate that intention. And because, you talk about doing, I talk about being, because once I'm being courageous and passionate and impactful and loving, the mechanisms of doing will just take care of themselves. They will flow.
Yeah.
Because if I'm courageous, I'm going to get these hits, I'm going to get ideas.
Right.
They'll be easy to implement.
Yeah.
So, and getting rid of like the victim mentality, being responsible for absolutely everything that's in your life, gives you so much power, because you can always make a different choice if you don't like what you have.
Mm-hmm.
Something else. I'm going to try this today. And we take it so personally. We're so serious. Like, lighten up, have some fun. Like I'm hilarious when I catch myself beating myself up. I'm like, I'm so cute. There I go again, beating myself up. I must really be committed to growth. That's what it is. Like, when I catch myself, I'm like, oh, I'm not being who I intended to be.
Yep.
So just choose again and have fun with it.
Yep.
You're going to learn the same lessons either way. You can beat yourself up or have fun, Give yourself a pet name. Mine's Care Bear. Oh, Care Bear, you're so cute. Look what you just did.
I mean, we've got to be nicer to ourselves. Yeah, for sure.
Seriousness is of the ego. It's not our highest self. It's the ego that wants us to compare ourselves and to feel less than or better than somebody else, to be right or wrong, black and white. That's all ego.
Yeah.
It's all BS. It's not real.
So Michael says, a page a day, another do on top of existing do's, talk about a break, and then keep on doing.
Well, it's also intention.
Mm-hmm.
Setting the intention of writing 1 page a day, I don't consider that. I mean, yes, it's doing, but what's your intention behind it, and what's your way of being?
Right. Yeah. And my way of being has changed so much in the past 2 years, to where it's heading to where I want it to go. I am much less of a doer than I used to be, for sure.
If you had declared like 10 pages a day or 20 pages a day, I would say that you're doing again.
No, yeah. And it's 5 days a week. It's not 7.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, there's going to be some things that I'm going to be doing, but it's not like, hey, and if one day I don't get it written, I'm not going to beat myself up. Right. So,
well,
too. But I mean, if I want to write a book, which I do want to write a book, it's going to be an Onward podcast related book. I got to start writing. I can't just not do that.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
But I'm not, I guess what I'm going to say is, I'm not like, oh my gosh, I got this and this and this and this and this. I'm not like all stressed out. I'm more in flow during the day, which is what I like. I'm not like, oh my God, check this off, which is kind of, I wasn't as in flow in my last job. So it's an intentional changing, but it's not going to happen overnight, because I have 38 years of patterns of being that way. So
do you know Stephen Pressfield, The War of Art?
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah. One of the things people always ask me, do I only write when I'm inspired? And he's like, yes. And luckily I'm inspired every morning at 9 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah, because that is the thing. I mean, sometimes you're just not in the mood, but you can at least outline something or something you can do, but don't force it. Right?
There's a big difference between doing just to check it off a list and taking inspired action.
Yeah.
As an extension of your way of being.
Right. That's what I'm doing.
know.
Taking expired action as extension of my way of being. Yeah, because I'm definitely putting myself first, which I have not done. So, but anyway, you shared so much, and I know this episode is going to help a lot of people because we both shared some difficult things that we've gone through and how we're trying to improve ourselves and leaving the comfort zone and, admitting something about yourself that you're not too proud of, but moving on from that. So, and your mom said she's proud of you. I'm proud of you too. for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, we get to be proud of ourselves.
Yeah.
Because it at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It's going to leave us immediately. Once we get someone's approval, we're going to be like, okay, who's next?
Yeah.
Whereas if we approve of ourselves, we don't need it from out there. We just don't need it.
Right. So, all right. So here's a banner, which is your website. If people want to reach you, and you have an ebook on your website.
I do. It's called Breath of Life. And in Brain Gym, the breathing dimension is associated with personal power. So a lot of times if we feel powerless, we are not breathing. We'll learn to hold our breath as children so we're not detected if we're being naughty. And then we feel powerless. And we do it a lot of times unconsciously. We'll hold our breath when we're stressed out.
Yeah.
So book, it's really fun. It's short. There are 3 breathing techniques for all kinds of different things. Like one is for releasing resentment. One is for balancing your energy and getting focused. I mean, there's all kinds of different things in there. You're going to find it. And I'm hilarious. I was an economics major. So I made this chart like, okay, this breathing technique is good for this. And then I just like check them, what they're good for. So it's really simple. If you're like on the fly and you want a breathing technique, just learn them really fast. They're simple. And then go down the chart like, oh yeah, I'm going to do that one because I'm feeling really angry. I'm going to release some resentment.
Yeah, they're teaching kids that more now. I think instead of like time out, they're teaching them how to breathe and how to, maybe meditate and just how to get back and be centered, which I think is really good. I didn't learn that when I was growing up. And I think I tend to just, we take shallow breaths. We never really take deep breaths. And that's something that has helped me change my way of being, is meditating. And it was very hard for me to do at first, but now that's how I start my day. And it helps me be more in the flow. And my days go so much smoother when I do that.
I couldn't agree more. And as Americans, we use one of the lowest percentages of our lung capacity of any other nation. We breathe up here.
Yeah, right here.
And we also don't exhale out all the used air a lot of times. And we're not conscious of it. So if we get conscious of our breath, it automatically will slow down. It will deepen. We will inhale more more oxygen, which will oxygenate our system, wake us up, increase our focus. And it also signals to the parasympathetic nervous system to turn on that everything's okay.
Yeah.
Turns off fight or flight.
Yeah.
It's super important because 70 to 80% of the time, most of us are in fight or flight.
And we don't need to be.
We're in survival.
Yeah.
And you can't create from that perspective. Yeah. If there's a tiger that's chasing you, you're not going to say, I think I'm going to ponder this next, invention or whatever. You're not creating. You can't be.
Yeah. Breathing is a part of martial arts training. Cool. Thanks, Francie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and end this, Karen, and then we'll still be able to chat for a little bit when we're done. But thank you, everybody, for watching. Jamie and Michael and Francis and whoever else was on that I can't see your name. I really appreciate you guys tuning in.
Thank you so much for having me, Emily. Thank you, everybody, for watching. You're beautiful. You're lovable no matter what.
Thank you, Karen. You too.
Thanks.